I love that. It was a good way to start the show. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the award-winning Get in the Herd podcast, a recovery podcast brought to you by the McShin Recovery Resource Foundation down here in Richmond, Virginia. My name is Nathan Mitchell, and I'm here with my lovely and talented and fabulous co-host, Honesty Liller, the Chief Executive Officer here at the McShin Foundation. Today, our guest, I am very honored to have with us the founding director of the Serenity House of Flint, Michigan. She is a woman in recovery up there doing some amazing work. Her name is Tara Moreno. And I asked Tara here today because I spent a lot of time with Tara yesterday in a phone call, and I continued to hear the calm and whole thinking about recovery when I talked to Tara. And I thought, man, I need more of this in my life, in my personal recovery, and in the way that I approach situations here. So Tara, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we've asked you here because you do a lot up there, and I hear a lot from your Facebook, the Facebook things that you do. Tell us, what is your approach to your personal recovery and how you work with your coachees? And I only gave a tiny little overview of what you've done in your life. So if you want to elaborate on your extensive bio, please do.
Yeah. So, I mean, the basics are my own recovery. So that's the foundation of how all of my work has really grown. But I am, so I started out with the 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I moved into Al-Anon when I started to unravel and peel back the onion and started to understand that my dad's addictions really had a profound impact on my psyche and my soul. This intergenerational trauma thing that I'm beginning to understand that is happening in our communities. So I started to peel back the layers, and, I started to delve into holistic medicine. So the Eastern mindset approach to healing. So Eastern medicine is, it's ancient. It's been around for thousands of years. Our ancestors have been using, various techniques, food to heal, herbs to heal, things like, getting into the more esoteric approaches, but like energy medicine and acupuncture and Reiki, and then yoga, right? People know what yoga is. It's really using a form of breathing and moving energy in the body, like the bandhas, right? To be able to facilitate these locks in the body that essentially can begin to release that trauma. And that's kind of where I'm at right now in my own recovery. So I use like food to heal. I use yoga to heal. I use meditation. I use self-healing with Reiki every day. And then really, though, the foundation is the service part, so the 12th step. So that's really how I'm able to kind of keep it together, is by serving the community and sharing this knowledge that I've gained in my own recovery.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
I love it. Yeah. So let me chime in here. So I love hearing all that. Like, I don't know, in a future life or part-time side hustle, like I want to do something like that as far as maybe not yoga, because I do love yoga and I love my body and I love, I have respect for it. Now I didn't for practically my whole life. But like that sense of serenity and peace, and I know, like, for a lot of people that I've encountered, specifically people new to recovery, it's like, when you're new to recovery, you've been there, Tara, it's chaos. And how can I fix things? And how can I get my kid back and pay these fines and prevent going back to jail and prison or whatever? Everybody comes in to McShin normally with some form of chaos, drama, baggage, whatever you want to verbalize it as. Not a lot of people just call up McShin and say, hey, can I come live there? Because my life is great. So having that, having that sense of serenity, and being able to be one, with yourself. I think that is a crucial part. It is difficult, I'll be honest, because I do a group out at our female house, which is mainly all the women that are new to recovery. And I do a wellness group because I'm not certified or anything. And like we do certain things, but it's hard. Like I did a guided meditation the other day, and it's hard for our brains. And it's even hard for me. And I have over 13 years sometimes to like cut it off, and be so serene. Is there like any tips, since you are the professional, like any tips you can give those new to recovery to kind of like just breathe, but also like how can you incorporate that in your recovery, like beginner status?
So, I mean, the basics are really, so you can tell somebody to breathe breathe, right? So, but when people come in in crisis, it's like their nervous systems are so jacked up from the trauma. And it's like, how do we get them to calm their nervous systems? And honesty, it begins with back to that service that I was just talking about. So your story and your energy, like your gift, right? And to keep honing in on that. Because the more you heal yourself and the more that kind of transfers over to the women that you serve, they feel it. They will, I mean, just like you can hear my voice as I speak, right? It's almost like you can kind of, the more sentient you are, the more you can hear it, you can feel it, right? You can feel that lull. I do this regularly. I do guided meditations all the time. I'm always helping people heal. So, taking that step and getting, the coaches trained and regular, how to get trained in mindfulness and practicing it and walking it. And then that transfers into the people that we serve. At our organization, integrity is one of our core values. And it's like, I tell my coaches, I tell the healers, you guys have to be walking the walk, man. Like that's the only way you're going to be able to really make impact. Your words have to align with what you're doing, because people know that. And especially people, right? They're on this, we were on the streets, we know when people aren't being, totally upfront and totally honest. I mean, they have that radar, so that's where it really comes down to, the people that are serving the people and making sure that our coaches have like a coach for them, who's coaching them, right? Who's helping them process all that stuff,
Yeah, that's crucial. Like, what we do here is like mandatory self-care days, mandatory vacations or whatever. Like, I think what I've learned through a lot of my leadership programs and probably where I met you at for real, you try to incorporate that, as leaders, we also have to take care of our own recovery and our own, mental state. I've been here for 13 years. I've been working here a little over 13 years. And I didn't do it well, probably for the first 8-ish years working here. I did not, I was in recovery, but I did not feel like I could let things go or delegate out because I started as a newcomer working here. I was 5 months in recovery. So a lot of it, I felt very prideful of certain tasks or certain things, here at McShin. And then as we grew, it was like, I have really had to dive deeper than just 12-step. I had to dive deeper in some other programs. We've had other guests that had like this goddess program, which teaches you about masculine and feminine energy. And I didn't know. I was like masculine muscles, feminine, is feminine pink or whatever, and I didn't understand what all that meant. And I am so grateful. I truly believe like the power that I believe in, sends me humans to kind of show me how to be a better human. So if I'm taking care of myself, like you said earlier, like I can help these women, and I know I share this all the time that I walk in my purpose every single day. Like I am so grateful to be able to do that because a lot of people cannot say that. And that whole part of like being the person that I know and feel that I want to be, not really necessarily what I have to be, is just a crucial part of my lifestyle.
So Tara,
You have a feather. No glitter today. No confetti.
There is still confetti in the rug so we just recently had our 100th episode, Tara, and while we were in here, there was confetti every time the word recovery was mentioned.
Yes.
And the confetti still invades my house.
It's at my house too. It was all over.
Tara, I love that you're here, and thank you again. It's on the floor. Walk me through, if you will, please. What is Reiki? And how does that benefit people in recovery? What is it that it does for people or for you?
Reiki, it's simply the ancient practice of the laying on of hands, although hands there doesn't have to be touch involved. It's really channeling that life force energy. What Honesty was just talking about, how she walks in right into that energy. And what we do is we actually channel it through the body, and we connect with ourselves and with other people to be able to deliver it. Reiki is the practitioner as a conduit for the energy to come through. It's that, right? And it's, it feels really good, right? When you're connected, right? The peace that flows through you, that serenity that flows through you. So it's, in a very basic way, it's channeling that peace and serenity and then giving it to somebody else through energy medicine. That's as simple as it can be.
You haven't done Reiki? Have you done Reiki?
No, I haven't actually.
I did Reiki. Yeah. So we had these two awesome volunteers that would come up here and do aromatherapy massages. So they would just do our necks and the bottoms of our feet, like no one got naked or anything. And then one of the women specialized in Reiki. So I went to her house. I forgot why she couldn't come in. So I did it. It was, I wasn't really open-minded as I should have been, but as I was laying on that table, like you just barely touch, like you really don't, it's all energy, right? And it was just to be able just to lay on a table and just relax was like, I was like, this has to be working like this. And this was years ago. It was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was like, you could feel it's really hard to explain unless you've experienced it, but you can feel this force, especially if you're like, if I did it now, I know it would be 10 zillion times even more because I believe in so many more things and spirits and angels and all that. And she told me when I left, she's like, do I have your permission to send you positive, I don't know, she didn't use the word vibes, but positive energy. I was like, well, what do you mean? How do you do that? I'm going back to work. Like what? So I was really, really interested. And like, she just says that she said, we definitely have a connection or whatever. And then she sent me positive energy, when she thinks about me or feels like I'm going. So I believe in all the saints and all this other stuff. I just, again, I've educated myself in a lot of different areas other than just 12-step. And it's you would like it, but it's like, it was difficult doing it here because it's so busy, but you got to shut off your mind and be open-minded to like, this is going to do something, you know what I mean? And it was really, really cool. We really should find someone over like that would volunteer.
We've had Reiki guy come here in the past before the
That's right,
COVID.
the chat room.
Yeah, and we've had yoga, we've had acupuncture here. But what I like and what I'm reading, about you, Tara, is I'm going to read right off of your page here. It says providing holistic prevention services to heal addiction, codependency, and trauma in the individual and community. And this holistic approach, I think for me, when I got here, when I say here, when I got to McShin, I came from a jail program and I came to McShin and I found, I was introduced to recovery in the jail program and I continued here. It was about just not using, just gathering some tools to not use, and going beyond that, this outside approach, to bring inside health and healing to me. Talk about more about how that works for you, if you would please share how we can add a more holistic approach to what we do here at McShin and how others can incorporate these things into their lives
during COVID.
Yeah, during
Do you
COVID,
have specific
especially.
tips during COVID? Because we can't be touching each other, breathing each other. This is the closest I've probably been with someone without a mask. But I have it here.
I get it. So
I got the vaccine, baby.
so we are all is really one. Okay, so we are an interdependent system, right? So if you look into nature, right? So trees have this root system where they actually speak to they speak to each other through this root system, and people are very similar to that. So there's this phenomena that happens that when you put DNA and RNA in one beaker, and then you take the same DNA and RNA and put it in another beaker in another room, and you add a catalyst to one of the vials, the RNA and DNA will change in the vial in the other room.
Wow. Whoa. Mind blown.
Right? So, so it's all interconnected, right? So it goes for this healing, right? So it's like, when you heal yourself, you're healing your community and in the collective, indirectly, right? So, in terms of Reiki, the things that we can do is we can do it virtually, which we have done our groups. So we have a group called Recovery Reiki. It's a group that we have in person. We have restrictions in Michigan, but we did them online. As soon as COVID hit, I moved everything online and we were doing groups. And the impact that we have online is very much similar to the impact that we have in person.
Wow.
We're seeing reduction rates for anxiety at 42%.
Wow. Can you do this here? Is that like a free Zoom we can jump on? I mean, that just amazes me because it's not that, I know in our area here in Richmond, there's so many overdoses, there's so many suicides, there's so many reoccurrence of uses since COVID. I mean, the numbers have just skyrocketed, and a lot of it has to do with isolation. A lot of it has to do with the world ending, a lot of unemployment, but also like the 12-step meetings and the smart, like not meeting in person, right? So just to hear you say that just amazes me and gives me so much hope that, like, I don't know, that's life-changing, to hear, you guys have flipped everything and do that, which we have too, but it's also like, to be able to hear other people throughout the community. That's why the only thing I really love about COVID is this, we flipped everything to virtual, not everything because we've been open. So we still take humans every day, but these awesome people started this podcast and like, we are able to show the world, like recovery works all over the world, not just here at McShin or not just here, in Richmond, Virginia. That's so, because I know Reiki and I have a feeling of, I have a tattoo I just got called Release to Spirit. So it's like my just anxiety as a mom, I think, is the biggest ones that take over for me. My daughter's 19 and my son's 11. It's more the daughter that's 19. She actually got her first tattoo yesterday. I was like, oh, wait, I'm like a really older mom now. Like my daughter has a tattoo, but I got mine when I was 12. So, but this one I got recently as an adult. But it's like the constant reminder, like for me, this is my personal, I believe in God, I believe in spirits, I believe in releasing that stuff, to spirit, because like if we sit in this negative ball of energy, anxiety, fear, like all this stuff, like I've got a great recovery program, but I have such insane fear sometimes. I'm like, where did that even come from? Well, you watch The Walking Dead until 9:00 at night. So that probably doesn't help, right? Or whatever. So I I don't cut out The Walking Dead, but I cut out so many other shows like murder shows and mysteries and like SVU, all these shows where it was like, I need to make some serious changes in my life, and that I started doing a couple years ago, but I can always look down, like when I'm just release the spirit, man, just release.
Do you with your program, sorry, Tara, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to say that humans, we're these amazing, amazing beings. And the amount that we can also hold on to is just, it is when we can cling to these things that are so unhealthy for us. And as we grow in our recovery, the drugs and alcohol, it's about the other things, right? These other unhealthy things that we keep kind of using to, kind of essentially replay our trauma in a subconscious way, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm not kidding. Some movies and shows, like I'm not going to name them all because I don't want to get in trouble, but some shows and stuff, like my husband, he can watch whatever and he's fine. I cannot do it anymore. I've had to cut out so many shows we watch together. I don't do it. I read at night now. I read positive books specifically about positive women and influencers and stuff. You just have to change it up sometimes, you're in long-term recovery. Sometimes we just got to change it up. I know we have a question from Gwen, if we want to.
No, sure. So Tara, and for honesty as well, Gwen Smith, who's a, what do we call them? A fan, diamond fan?
Number one fan. We should get one of those badges.
Well, we have them.
Gwen, number one fan.
But
So Gwen is definitely the top. Yeah.
I think Alex calls them super fans.
Super fans. So Gwen
that
asked,
was a chicken.
how?
It's not.
But isn't that a comment from? There was a Saturday Night Live skit where she was. Never mind. I'm being silly. Total
She
squirrel
smelled
there.
her armpits.
Yeah, total squirrel chase.
She
there.
was a cheerleader.
How can women mentor and encourage others in recovery? And this is for you, Tara, because we keep talking too much.
I think sisterhood is something that we're really working through right now as a collective. And, to be able to kind of, again, looking into our subconscious and the things that we hold on to that keep us from having these healthy relationships with women, or, and to be able to keep that introspection going and see how it is manifesting in your relationships. Women are, women are, and from the spiritual community, we're going to be leading this thing in terms of helping the world to overcome what has happened with this imbalance of masculine energy. So to be able to really connect with our sisters and to support our sisters is going to be crucial as we walk into this new way of being. And there is a lot of trauma around female relationships, and like I said, getting into that subconscious, into that pain body, I call it, like what is preventing us from, loving our sisters. And, the mother wound could be something that is a factor in that.
Say more on that. What is that?
I know what that is.
Well, no,
I want to hear you. I want to hear your version,
sorry.
because you just said it. You're just telling my book, just reading my book.
So the mother wound, it's intergenerational trauma, so it's passed down from generation to generation, and it's that mother wound, that critical mother, and that's what I call her. For me, it's like that. You're not good enough, or you're too this, or you're too that, or you're, not enough this, so this narrative, right? This story that has been handed down. So our work now as women, as mothers, as sisters, is to begin to deconstruct that mother wound, that inner critic voice of the mother, and in extreme cases, abuse from the mother. And that's all in the subconscious. I mean, we have to get into the subconscious. If you look in 12 steps, right, we do our 4th and our 5th step. We start to get in the subconscious there, right? We start to list these things we want to hide in the subconscious, right? We can take that further, and we can actually do things like inner child work, conscious transmutation of emotion, allowing ourselves to cry, allowing ourselves to feel, opening up those boxes that we've kind of put away because we're too afraid to look at. What I know in my own healing path and the people that I work with is, in those boxes, there are these hidden jewels, right? This healing that can happen where you don't have to push these thoughts away, or you don't have to file these things away anymore because you're free of them. Right.
Yeah, I love where this is going. Tara, tell us about what got you into recovery, if you don't mind sharing with us. And Tara, let me also start by saying that a lot of our listeners, and so you see maybe a couple up there, right? But a lot of our listeners will end up listening through either Spotify or iHeartRadio or one of the podcast platforms. But a sizable population will listen through what is it called? JPAL?
Jade.
PayTel.
Yeah.
Or PayTel.
Yeah.
Will listen while incarcerated. We have a sizable population who hear these podcasts, or sometimes watch these podcasts while incarcerated. So speaking to how you got into recovery and maybe how that can translate for individuals who may not be able to get out to a recovery community organization like yours, what can we do while we're behind bars?
Yep. So I have intergenerational trauma. My father's side of the family is Mexican American with Native American blood running through it. Incarceration has been something that has riddled our family for a while. So I do have a uncle who is in prison for first-degree murder. He's been in there for about 40 years now.
Sorry, my ice is tingling.
And that trauma has trickled down through the family. And we've seen addiction, incarceration riddled through the entire family. I just lost a cousin to a car accident last week where drugs and alcohol were involved. That was her grandfather that's in prison for first-degree murder. Right. So we're dealing with intergenerational trauma. It's being handed down to us. Right. So my own story is, my father is still in active addiction. He is, he played a very big role in my trauma and my unconscious ways, to use, for my path. I went, I had a strong mind and I partied and I was a binge user and I went to college and I got my first degree, but I was still using. And then it was when I lost custody of my daughter when I was 28. She was 2.5, 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And that was such a significant blow, painful experience that I went through. And I stayed out for a year and I tried to die. Right. And I had this profound experience in Colorado and in Estes Park, where I actually bathed in the cold glacier water. And I had this almost like this draw to go home and go to rehab. And I did. And I went home and I started that slow climb out of that darkness.
Yeah, know all about that. My daughter she didn't get taken from me. I left her with my biological mom, but I didn't get her back until I moved out of McShin. So she was like 5.5 when I finally chose to stay in recovery. It's tough. I mean, that's the hardest thing I've had to go through with my personal recovery, as far as that shame, that guilt, that negative outlook on women. I feel like it's still so much more stigma attached to a woman user than a male user, because unfortunately society, for the most part, still the woman is the child bearer, the mom at home taking care of. There's so many women. I read an article about a month ago, like how many women nationally have quit their jobs because they have to stay home with their children because of COVID. And the man gets to go to work, because that's tough, staying at home with your kids all day and doing the school and stuff. What do you think? Do you feel that I 100% feel like we get stigmatized more while we use, especially when we have, my daughter was born in withdrawal from heroin, so the nurses, I mean, it was 19 years ago, but I felt like the most piece of crap there was because of what I did to her. I've worked through all of that. I'm able to talk about it, but the reality of it is, unfortunately, it still happens. There's still so much negative outlook on addiction in general, but then when you're a woman and you have children specifically, it's like 10 times more, if not 50 times more, stigma attached to you. How do you feel on that topic?
I felt like I had a scarlet letter. I was walking around with this this thing that everyone knew, and then I was just this, just how could she, right? This judgment that was so powerful. And that was that motivator for me, though, to like really start to heal and advocate for myself. Yes, there's a stigma. And I don't think people understand, though, that women are built to hold more pain than men. We give birth to children. So what people don't understand with addiction is that we can handle more pain and stay in the pain, right, in a way that men can't, because we have that threshold, that higher threshold, right? So really looking at that when it comes to addiction and saying, women are built differently, and the whole thing with, I haven't thought about that in a while, honestly, about like that whole stigma with women. So the good thing, though, is that what's happened out of my story and with the stigma is that I actually worked with the judge who was the judge that took custody away from me.
That's cool.
Yeah, he was our keynote speaker 2 years ago for our walk and rally. We've sat and we've had very powerful conversations around the death of his mother. So there's this healing that happened in my life, and I want people that are listening to this, that wherever you're at right now, this is part of your redemption. This is part of your story that could help other people. And it may feel like so hopeless and dark at times, but this is that fertile ground for you to begin that ascent into that. There's a divine perfection. You might not be able to see it right now, but it's there. And your life will be the testimony. And reach out and get that support in the McShin Foundation. Oh my God, what a beautiful gift. It's just showing up, and keep doing the work and don't give up, right? So this is what full circle looks like for recovery, right? So I'm working with the judge who took custody away from me. I found forgiveness in my heart for the things that happened during that time. And I want people to understand that.
That's powerful.
That's amazing.
It's kind of like us. We both lived in McShin and we work here. Yeah. So it's kind of the same. Kind of, not really, but.
I testified against a bill that the sheriff where I was arrested was advocating for, but that's not quite the same thing yet. But I
bet you that felt good though.
Little bit, because the bill passed in my favor. Yeah. You started the Flint Serenity House in 2015, right? And tell us how that started for you, and where it was, a little like 12 steps, what happened and what it is now, what it was like, what happened and what it's like now. If you would.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's so much to it. So I was a news reporter. So after I got my second degree, I have a master's degree in Composition and Rhetoric. I wanted to be, I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. And I was writing and I was working for a newspaper, and, I was seeking, though. I was in recovery, but I didn't tell anybody. right? So I was, meeting with all these politicians, doing interviews and, city council meetings, and I hit it. And then I was invited to do a recovery coaching training. There was this like new thing that was happening with recovery, and there were, recovery coaches, right? And I'm like, I'm like, you mean like sponsor kind of stuff? And they're like, no, this is like, a non-judgmental way to be able to help people, navigate recovery. So I took the recovery coaching training at our community mental health here, and I met people who were professionals that were talking about their recovery. And I'm just like, oh my God, I think it's time, right? Like it's time to kind of make this shift. We need a walk and rally here. I'm going to start talking openly about who I am. And that's kind of how it started. It's kind of how it started in terms of the advocacy piece. The holistic came about a year and a half before, and I was like, maybe I should do something with holistic. And then they kind of just married each other, right? It was like advocacy and providing holistic options for recovery, right? Peer recovery support services. So I quit my job and I started moving into the nonprofit world, and I gathered, went to the SBDC, got, business, coaching, got the board together. And then we just kind of, I really used all my contacts that I had gained in the industry and in the news reporting industry. And I started asking for money and letting them know, like, this is who I am and this is how you can help. So that was in 2015, 2016, we were just going out and doing Reiki at events. We would do these 10-minute sessions on people, and we would just lay hands on anyone who would let us lay hands on them. And then people were like, people in Flint, Michigan, right? People are like, who are you? What are you doing? Like, but
I'm just imagining that here.
Yeah, we can't do that here.
Well,
no.
I could do that.
Yeah, in Flint, no. I mean, people were, people loved it, man. They were like lining up, and we were at the, big UCAN event at the Capitol. And I mean, we just had like, I think we laid hands on like 150, 200 people that day.
Oh.
So it was just like, and we were the weird people, but then all of a sudden it was like people were like, okay, so like what they're doing, they're doing something, and they're making impact, right? And we just kind of experimented. We got our first grant from the Community Foundation, and we were doing like aromatherapy and things like that. And then we moved, started to get the data and get the impact, and yeah, so here we are. 6 years, I think 6 years. We're in this phase right now where we just completed a 3-year strategic plan. When I started the organization, it was just this wildness to it, right? It was just like, and now we're kind of bringing the wildness and containing it. Like providing structure. How do you provide freedom within structure? That's the big question I have. It's like, how do you do it?
Isn't that recovery?
For real.
Well, I love this story. I really do. I love everything that you're saying. And I think we are the weird people is a tagline I want for me now.
I know,
we are
right?
the weird people. There's a lot of towns that go, Austin says that, Austin is weird or whatever they say. Gwen up there, I know Todd just had that up there. Gwen asks another question, and she says, what other writers or books would you recommend for people in recovery, aside from the big book and the basic texts, et cetera?
Oh, yeah. If you want to take your spirituality to the next level, I mean, you got to get into some like Eckhart Tolle. So go ahead and get The New Earth and The Power of Now. Get into some, Marianne Williamson. She's got a book called A Return to Love.
What was it, Marianne Williamson?
That was so loud. Sorry. We're taking notes.
Yeah, for those of you listening.
Yeah, and then what I'll do after we're done today, I'll come back through here and get the titles and plug them into the comments with the Amazon links so people can.
Do you think I have time to come back through
I said
this
I'll
podcast?
do it. I'll
okay. No, I'm saying I'm taking them now because I ain't gonna have time to go back through. But I read a bunch too. They're not necessarily people, but Present Over Perfect. I can never pronounce her first name right. It's like Shania Naquest. Is such a good book. Oh my, like such amazing, just kind of like being present in your life when your life is busy for great things. She's a writer, she's a public speaker, she's doing amazing things, but it was like boom, 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 boom. And then like her children are kind of being left at home with her husband. And like, it was just like, whoa, that was my life kind of, of like building McShen and working, event. It's just a cool book to kind of like relate to as far as like just stopping, being grateful. I do this gratitude book every morning. It's like being grateful for what is surrounding you now, not what can be the future of your surroundings that is completely wrong. But you get what I'm saying. Like just being like a lot of everything that y'all do, Tara, is like just being present, and looking around. Like I can afford a bougie Starbucks drink, I mean, like just like little things that make you happy and you do something. I was telling, I still coach women here and, I have positive quotes all through my house and my office. Like my kids' shower curtain is a positive quote because I try to, integrate that into their lives. But it's important, like some other tips for that is like, I get the girls here to do Post-it notes on their walls of positive affirmations. Like when we come in, I believe, and what I've seen through all my years here is when women come in specifically, I can speak my own story. I can do a lot of things that my boyfriends couldn't do in order to get money quicker, faster for drugs, or whatever, well, drugs, because that's all I focused on, so it's a lot of shame and guilt and just like hating yourself and your body and the things that you've done. So it has to just incorporate the small things, like I have a sweatshirt like this. So it looks like I have these little, like, take this off. I look like, okay. All right. There you go. Like a T-Rex. But surrounding yourself with positive people, positive humans, positive, if you read, positive podcasts, like Get in the Herd, award winning, and positive influences, whether that's television, sports, hobbies, whatever, and those things I've had to figure out throughout my recovery life. And I've had to change some stuff up, throughout the years because like, most of McShen is new to recovery. The individuals live in our housing. They stay 6-9 months to a year as well. But, explaining that to someone new into recovery is like, we're hope dealers, right? That we're trying to deal hope as far as showing them, you can survive, you can live without drugs, you can pay your bills, you can fix your debt. I mean, all of us have some form of success story that work here at McShen. So it's our jobs as humans that are recovering to also teach them. I try to fast forward a little bit as far as like, these are the things that I'm doing today at 13 years in recovery. Don't fast forward, but I just try to incorporate little tips as of stuff that I do that would have been cool if that was taught to me in early recovery, right? Just the holistic stuff, the exercise stuff, the reading, any information that we can get out that is working for us, not saying you need to read this book because it's going to change your life. More of, I've read this book. It's also the one I just said, Present Over Perfect. I mean, I could read it 20 times, but I've given it to the women here at McShen and they bring it back. And it's kind of like a little library of like, it all depends on the individual. If I see something, which I'm sure you do too with the girls and the women's that you coach, women you coach, is like, oh man, this would be good. Just like the little things, this will be good for them, I think, and try it. And if you don't like it, don't do it again. But I think it's our role as those that are recovering for the longevity of time. It is our role on earth to give as much information as we can and then let that individual take it or leave it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, dead space
You
there.
zoned out.
Well, no,
I'm sorry for my ice jiggling. It's so loud. It's like, but this, what is this? An iced Irish cream
It's a bougie-
latte. Boo,
It can't be any worse.
$6.
It can't be any worse than yesterday because we had them working on the dumpster right outside the window,
Oh.
and it sounded like.
I saw that text or
yeah.
something. What is that
Yeah.
thumping? Was that you to me?
Yeah, not
Well, it's a
whoever.
good group,
So.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
We keep it real. That's why McShin is the best authentic peer-to-peer recovery community organization accredited through CAPRIS, the only one in Virginia.
Well, so it's funny that you brought up accreditation because that was the next part of the conversation.
Oh, are you CAPRIS?
No, but part of ARCO. Are you part of ARCO?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about ARCO.
ARCO.
Which is the Association of Recovery Community Organizations.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you about your participation in that, and also, well, you're not CAPRIS accredited. Are you?
Not yet. No.
Not yet, but you're working on it.
On our list. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent to hear that. And this wasn't a, hey, we want to get you accredited. It was more of a, what's the process for you as far as being a part of ARCO? Why do you see this as important? And how do you feel about the process of getting accredited right now?
I think that, having that interdependency, and that's kind of what ARCO brings, right? So it can connect all of us from across the nation, and having that support system is really, really, really good to be able to, because the animal is, despite the holistic, what we're doing with being faces and voices of recovery, it's still new, and it's still like kind of, having people face their shadows through us, right? It's like, oh my God, they're talking about it, and it's like, yes, we're talking about it. We need to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Like, having ARCO and having that support system to know that, we're all doing the same work. In terms of the accreditation with Joseph, so we've started the conversations last year. It is part of our strategic plan. I think where we're at right now is building out this recovery coaching program. So what we're doing is we will be using CCAR, but we will be implementing a holistic specialization within that training. So we're going to have like 5 to 10 hours, right, of emotional freedom technique, of Reiki, right, to be able to provide that service to our participants. So we're still in this development phase right now. So we are not like McShin. We are still very small. And we served, I think this year with COVID in person, we've served like 498 people.
Wow.
And then, but the year before we served almost 2,000.
Wow.
But we're still growing, and the accreditation is part of the growth, and to have that stamp. So.
Yeah, well, I'm a site reviewer. I would love to come to your site review. That would be fun if I get a free Reiki session. No, I don't think I'm allowed to
That's
ask
quid
for
pro
that,
quo there.
actually. I love doing it. So I'm a site reviewer. So I've done 2 in person and 1. I just finished a virtual one, which was really interesting. It's actually pretty cool. But there's nothing. We can go over a million times. There is nothing like that face-to-face, in-person feeling. I just have a feeling if I walked into your center that I would just fall on the ground and just be like happy. Like, I don't know. Like that. We're going to talk about weird stuff. So like that natural high, right? Of like just your spirit, just like not like gross, but like, yeah,
not like gross, but
David.
David.
My favorite show, Schitt's Creek. I've watched Schitt's Creek for 4 times since COVID. 4 times. Thank you, Kelly Wasaki. Now she introduced me to Schitt's Creek. I was like, I don't know, and then 4 times, thrice, no, 4. But anyway, it's that sense of like so obviously this job could be stressful and emotional and tiring, especially doing it for so long. But like that sense of energy. Like I smoked a ton of weed and I used to love weed, right? And then I found heroin at 17 and that was my love of my life until I was 26. But like, if you were a weed smoker, it was like that kind of, it didn't make me paranoid and all, it just made me like chill. But now I get to do that without having to smoke weed. Like it's literally like a serene, I'm not kidding. I walked around my neighborhood last night because I walked my dog because she's my little angel. And I swear I smell weed. I was like, what is that?
You have been obsessing about weed since we decriminalized it.
It never fully goes away. I'm not kidding. Sometimes, I mean, the addiction is alive and ready.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes I talk about, like I would like to go take a bong hit and eat like ganja brownies and like not have to deal with life. I mean, that I still have that, like you said, like it's part of our trauma. It's part of our memory. It's part of this brain, all the weed that I used to smoke. So it's like, it's a natural when you smell it too. So when I smelt it, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was weed. I try to blame it on like, those bushes that smell like skunk, I was like, no, they're not smoking weed. Then they started laughing and stuff. I was like, yeah, they're smoking weed. So, but like I play that tape out, right? Like just, and like it takes me back to like, I was a super hippie chick, fish shows at 12, 13, 14, 15. I was just I loved it, right? This is before I found heroin. And like, it just took me back to like, I thought about it for like this brief second. And it's like, oh man, like if I smoke weed, I'm gonna lose my job. I'm gonna eventually lose my family. Like you have to like, in active recovery, you have to like continually play that tape out, right? So it was like literally milliseconds of like thinking about it, but like all right, the weed, okay, over here. But the serene part of natural serenity is like when I do the guided meditations, when I do all my oils, like I have a diffuser and all of that, when no one is in my house and my dog is like asleep because I have a Yorkie, and if she is literally at my feet, she's my angel. So when that is all away, I'm actually hopefully going to build a she sanctuary this year. I hope it's like a little, so part of it's going to be a serene, with white Christmas lights. I have this whole vision, right? But I need the money to do it all. So if anyone knows a personal grant that I can apply for from a she sanctuary, let me know. Donations accepted. People might have wood lying around. I don't know.
Say that,
all right, my husband's
say that 10 times fast.
she sanctuary. But anyway, it's that serenity, natural high that we can get that I feel in your presence through this podcast, right? And that is because I have a deep connection on who honesty is inside and a deep feeling of like a sense of peace when I can be all over here, crazy, or I can be over here and choose that option. And sometimes I choose the chaos because sometimes it naturally is immediate defense or immediate reaction. But when I choose the pause, the breathe, walk away, that's a big one that I've had to like, I can't be in this meeting or this conversation right now. I have to excuse myself and come back. It's just like such a just easier way to live, man. It's hard to accomplish, but the more that you incorporate the things that you do at your organization as a human, I'm telling you, it gets so much better. We need to have like I need to go do my oils downstairs after this. I'm going to do that.
No
weed, just my oils.
We had Sarah Daves on the show. She's the Goddess program that Honesty was referring to earlier. And when I introduced Sarah, I said, this is the woman who keeps honesty. What did I say? That keeps honesty calm and happy. So we like her. Tara, what do you see for yourself? We're coming up on the hour here, but what do you see for yourself as you go forward? And what do you see for the people you service as you go forward with your recovery? And as steward of others' recoveries.
Oh, the future.
And as a person who works a 12-step, I understand the problem with obsessing about the future too much.
Yeah. I so want, our vision to manifest in creating these communities free of substance use disorder, codependency, and trauma. And I know it's going to take time, a lot of time, but I know that as we instill this into our children and they see us heal, that we're going to be able to begin to undo that intergenerational trauma.
That's pretty awesome. That is really awesome. I love what you're doing, and I love having you here, and I love that we're Facebook friends, and you post such calming, material, and I had such an incredible day yesterday, partially because you were there. And for those who don't know, so Tara serves on the association, or is part of the Association of Recovery Community Organizations, which is a part of Faces and Voices of Recovery, this national organization that advocates for recovery in general. And part of that, Tara and I are part of this national peer council putting together. It's really, I've been able to think about so many different things because as a result of this thing, we're working on creating. Tara, what are we doing?
What the hell are you doing?
We're creating a national.
Is he on a different Zoom? What is happening?
What are we doing, Tara?
Well, I've gotten a little bit lost in it too. So it's
we have not used today.
Not yet. No.
We're working with Faces and Voices of Recovery and Community Catalyst to create a national survey to be able to get the perspective of people who've had SUD and what's the most important thing in your recovery. The end goal is that we're trying to change policy and to implement more research in the modalities. So essentially we're saying, let's start putting money into recovery support services. Let's start researching these other modalities. Let's start thinking outside of the box. But yeah, so the survey was developed and it was sent out, and now we're kind of talking about the data and what do we recommend. So we're all in recovery. So there's 12 of us, I think, right?
I think so.
10? There was 12 or 10. But they asked us,
yeah, we don't know.
Well,
they just ask us questions because we have lived experience. So yeah, that's really change policy.
And what's fascinating about what we've been doing together, and this has been, almost 2 years, be 2 years this June, so a year and a half of working through this. And now that we're looking at the data, and yesterday when we met, it was a 6-hour meeting. It was dense and it was good. I mean, there was some really amazing stuff that I hadn't thought of. Looking at so essentially the survey that went out asked individuals, what are your preferred recovery outcomes? And so we've taken all that data over the 800 and some odd people who responded, and we've broken that down by race, by sex, and I don't know if we did it by age. Actually, now I'm curious about that too. By race and sex, and race and gender identity, and really got to see some differences, in what cultural differences that are there. So it was interesting. It was very, very fascinating to me. I'm so astonished by how little I know, and that only reinforced that. But it also reinforced my willingness to learn, my desire to learn, and to help more. As Honesty says, help more humans, because I approach things from my perspective, and that's a lot. I mean, that is a lot. I have a voice today. I have a perspective. And I need more tools. So this is exciting. With that, I know I rambled on there a little bit at the end there.
No, not Nathan.
I'm a squirrel chaser.
Can you put in the comments though her website as well, please?
Yeah,
on her Facebook page.
Yes, and I'll add that.
Because I see the big donate button. I like that. So
I would definitely put that link in there.
Flint
after the show.
SerenityHouse.org. FlintSerenityHouse.org in Flint, Michigan. Our guest today has been Tara Moreno, and I've really appreciated this time. If you are if you have the opportunity and you're listening and you can find her on Facebook, become friends with her or at least follow her. She has amazing insights and she's a really cool chick I know. Can I say chick? Am I allowed to?
I'm cool with chick.
Okay.
I mean,
really
I
cool
don't know.
person
You might
I know.
need to Google that now.
I don't know. And honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you as a co-host, you and your ice and keys. And I do the same thing. I want to play with my keys. And of course, Todd, our producer here. Is there anything you want to say before we log off, Tara?
No, I just love, thank you for inviting me. I love being a part of this and to get to know you better, Honesty. And this is great. Nathan, thank you.
Thank you. You're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, we need to find a way to collaborate so our participants here can experience some of what you're doing. So we'll talk offline perhaps. But thank you, Todd, for being a fantastic producer today. Woo! And thank you all. Join us again next week for fresh new editions of the award-winning Get in the Herd.
Friday night.
Gosh.
Friday. It's Friday. I got a job.
When is
I don't gotta get high. Friday night.
Oh my God.
I am doing the podcast. My little brother is in the McShin Foundation after 3 hard years of getting him here. So me and my brother are going to be with my sisters, my parents. So it's going to be a whole family affair. Friday night at 7:00. John will be hosting. So it will be lots of fun.
Shinholzer's hosting?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So he's hosting Friday night, Get in the Herd, 7 p.m. live here. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be emotional for sure. I'm sure. So.
Yeah, we're doing it's Get in the Herd instead of after hours. It's Get in the Herd late
Family
evening
hour.
edition or family hour. I like
Early bird.
family hour.
I go to bed. Look, okay. I know we got to go, but I go to bed at
All right.
9:00ish. I like my sleep.
9:00ish. She likes her sleep.
I do.
Thank you all for
Thank
listening
you.
out there. Thank you, Tara. Great to see you. And have a good evening. A great day.
Bye.
You too.
My name is Shannon Lance. I'm currently here in recovery at McShin Foundation. I got out of jail on January 10th, 2021. And while I was incarcerated there, my mother passed away due to COVID complications on December 14th. It was a really challenging event in my life. While I was incarcerated there, I watched the recovery videos and the podcast on the tablets there, that was made by the McShin Foundation. Getting the Herd podcast is really made me feel like I was a part of something on the outside because, there's people that are commenting and just seeing, people that I was incarcerated with on the videos and just thinking, man, that's going to be me, before too long. And, I'm going to be sitting there in them rooms and, be able to be a part of the podcast and Getting the Herd series. And, now I'm a part of the Herd here at McShin, and it's an amazing feeling, and it's nice having a fulfilled sense of hope in my life currently, and just to live one day at a time, and just to have positive feelings in my life and good relationships with my family and friends is an amazing event.